What is up, my Canadian cousins? I hope you're having a wonderful day today and a wonderful week. And it's the holiday season, so I hope we're all able to be somewhat festive right now. So somebody who had made a comment to one of my videos, Darcy, had suggested I check out the Canadian Rangers, and she briefly explained to me what their job description is, and I was immediately fascinated. So I've been really looking forward to doing this reaction all week and trying to find the time to do it. So here we are. All right, my friends, so without further ado, let's check out the Canadian Rangers.
I love being a ranger. Here in the community, we're isolated, so they depend on the rangers a lot. We are the eyes and ears of the military. I'm Canadian Ranger, and I'm also a land technician that is protecting the land.
The Canadian Rangers are unique. As a part of the Canadian Armed Forces, they provide a military presence in some of the most remote coastal and northern parts of Canada. The 5 Canadian Ranger Patrol groups across the country speak more than 25 different languages and dialects. Many of those are Indigenous. This reflects the fact that they represent more than 200 communities. The Rangers as we know them came into existence just after
200 miles from Yukon, 1959, Arctic sovereignty threat by Russia will be debated. Okay.
the Second World War, when the Cold War between the West and the Soviet Union drew global attention to Canada's north. Defense planners recognized the need for military presence to protect the region. The people living in Canada's remote regions were best equipped to provide this presence, so the Rangers were formed in 1947. The Rangers cover a territory that extends across 3.8 million square.
So 1947, which is when the Iron Curtain was descending across Europe and the Cold War was beginning. Okay, yeah, this makes sense that there would be a need for the Rangers up there. Cold War, more ways than one. Bad pun, sorry about it.
Kilometers.
I'm a dad of 4 girls, and I've been spending my entire life telling dad jokes, so.
That's one of the largest areas of military responsibility in the world. Because the region is so remote, the government turned to the people who've lived there for countless generations, many of them Indigenous. They have an intimate knowledge of their homelands. Their hunting, fishing, trapping, and subsistence activities mean that they're comfortable spending long stretches of time out on patrol. Jean Tassani is a part of that long-standing Canadian Ranger tradition. She's the sergeant of the Wollaston Lake Patrol Group and a member of the Dene Nation.
We as civilians go on our own to help the community. That's how we operate. The Dene people knows the land, the landscape, where it's safe to go and all that, because we have the knowledge of the north.
The Canadian Rangers keep an eye out for and report on unusual activities. That includes sightings of aircraft, ships, and submarines that aren't a regular part of the area. They conduct surveillance and sovereignty patrols to collect data for the Canadian military. The regions are remote. Winters can be brutal and dangerous, so a key component of their work is supporting ground search and rescue operations, known as GSAR.
You always have to bring somebody that is knowledgeable and guide you to the location where you're going. Ask for support from the community and they will give it to you. They're always willing to help. The guys that we all go out and do search and rescues, they know when it's safe to go out and where to go and where not to go because of the ice thinnage, river flows, and then the terrain and all that. So it's just they don't need a map. They have the map of their own, the knowledge. We have done a lot of ground search and rescues, and they're successful, and some were not really that pleasant. During the COVID, when the snow fell and the hunters were out stranded, the rangers were out hunting and also the local members, and then some local members from here made trails over there to meet up with the hunters and the rangers. So that was
This is really smart. This was a really smart move. I mean, I just can only imagine what vast amounts of land and territory there is to cover in the Northern Territories, which is so sparsely populated, right? And so what better way to do that is to tap the knowledge and resources, talents and know-how of the people that have lived there for generations and who know the land better than anybody else. Really smart move.
Successful trail breaking, because the snow was like 5-6 feet deep, above your waist and chest.
Canadian Rangers also promote the health and sustainability of their communities and cultures. They are unique in the military because they elect their own local leadership. Traditional knowledge and elders play an important role in the ranger structure.
That's really cool. So the military allows them to stick with some of their cultural and tribal ways of picking leaders, which probably works very efficiently for them because it's the way they've been doing it for generations. And what better way to pick a leader among a group of people who already have that tried and true structure.
Patrol members also use ranger activities
community
to pass along skills and local knowledge to younger members.
The relationship is perfect because everybody knows everybody and everybody speaks the language. And if they need assistance, like we just tell them and guide them how to go about to get the rangers activated. And now the younger generation, they need guidance and support. So we need to pass that on. It feels good to be in.
And just to continue my thought, it's quite striking that military, which is always this, organization full of discipline and rigid hierarchy, has the kind of flexibility that the Canadian military has in order to do this. I just think this is really, really smart.
Leadership and be a role model for the community and your fellow rangers. It takes.
And also getting the people who live there to be an integral part of it and buy into it and participate in it, rather than having it feel like the military is just coming into the territory and just going to, sort of assume they know what they're doing and leave the locals with all that knowledge on the sideline. They didn't do that. I don't know. This may be the 9th time I'm saying it, but I think this is just
a
really
lot
smart.
Of respect and how you approach people and how you communicate in order to be a leader.
Proportionally, there is a significantly higher percentage of women in the Rangers than in the regular force. Women make up more than 20% of the team, or more than 1 in every 5 members.
Here in the north, us Dene people, the women take on the leadership more than men. The women here, they're very strong in leadership and they help the guys. They work together. They all work as a team.
Perhaps most importantly, the Canadian Rangers act as pillars of support for one another.
I have met many rangers across Canada.
Is this picture here? I'm going to back up. I saw a picture of that. Is this the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier that they're standing right behind? So this would be the big war memorial in Ottawa.
Perhaps most importantly, the Canadian Rangers act as pillars of support for one another.
I have met many rangers across Canada, Alberta, Saskatchewan, BC, Australia, and the relationship between the rangers, it's just like a family. Like if we're all feeling down or one is feeling down, we all know each other. So we talk to each other and help each other up again and lift our spirits. Like really, it's just like one household. That's how it feels when we're all together, all in a uniform.
That's really cool, and I imagine that excuse me, that's really important in the more inhospitable regions of the country, that the communities must be very tight and supportive of one another in order to survive. That would stand to reason. I mean, I'm just surmising. I'd love to hear from you all as to what you think and what you can add to this conversation.
The Canadian Rangers have been in existence for more than 75 years. They guard some of Canada's most remote lands and protect some of the most isolated communities. The Rangers' legacy carries on today in the dedication and leadership of soldiers like Jean.
Wow, guys, that was really cool. And if you want to stick with me, I think I'm going to do another one because that was 6 minutes long, and I loved it, and I want to know more, and I want to see if I can get some other information here. Okay, hold on for a second.
Canada's Arctic. Cold, remote, inhospitable. But for Canadian Rangers, it's just another day at the office. And this is a job they volunteer for. They're Canada's guardians of the North. Canada's eyes and ears in the Arctic. Hence their motto, vigilance, the watchers. As climate change opens up the Arctic for more human activity, the Canadian government relies increasingly on the Rangers to assert sovereignty in the North or for search and rescue operations. Their expertise in surviving and thriving in this harsh and forbidding environment is key to Canada's ability to operate in the Arctic. The Rangers are a volunteer force. Most come from Canada's aboriginal communities, the First Nations and the Inuit. All.
So that's an interesting point. Climate change is opening up the Arctic, and I've heard this in other respects, to more human activity, and not all for good. So it seems like more than ever before, the Rangers are playing an important role.
Our experienced outdoorsmen with a lifetime knowledge of living on the land. Each Ranger receives a World War II Lee Enfield rifle and gets trained in marksmanship, navigation, first aid, and search and rescue. In return, the Canadian military gets world-class guides and scouts. Not long ago, Sergeant Bill Budd was hunting Taliban insurgents in Afghanistan. These days, he's a Ranger trainer. But he says he learns a lot more from the Rangers than he can teach them.
How to look for good snow to build an igloo. A lot of mechanical stuff with the machines. They're really good at using very little resources and actually fixing the machines. Sometimes they'll actually build parts out of, simple objects that you'd never think you could build a part to get a machine going out of. So little things like that, this is their...
Yeah, so that's interesting. So they really had to learn to be very innovative and work with what they could. Yeah. That reminds me a little bit. I've been to Cuba, and because they have so little to work with, they take washing machine parts out to keep their 1950s American cars or 1960s Soviet cars running. When people have to be, necessity is the mother of invention. So it seems like the people there are very resourceful.
This is their playground, and when we come up here, we try and pay as much attention as we can, and it's a good payoff because you do learn a lot of stuff. They as well learn a little bit of stuff from us too, so it's a pretty good trade-off.
But being a Ranger is not just for men.
Pretty much all the patrols have women in them, and their skill sets are excellent too. They're a real asset to the patrols, and there's lots of things that they're just as capable of doing. It's pretty tough living, especially in Nunavut, up in the north here, and the women are just as proficient with a lot of things as the men. But as well, culturally, they have certain things that they will do when a camp is set up, and then the men have other things that they will do as well. So they both have that trade-off, and that's what gets the job done up here.
Sergeant Budd says the Canadian military would be hard-pressed to operate in the Arctic without the Rangers.
I think we can operate in terrain like this, but I don't think it's a wise thing, because this is, like I said, this is their playground, and why would you not use somebody that is familiar with this type of terrain as guides, as scouts? I think it would be foolish, and I think this soldier that would have to come up here and do that would have to be of a high skill set. He would have to be trained by the Rangers, and then he may be able to do it. But things such as the ice out here, definitely, these are the guys that are going to get you through, and they're going to get you through safe.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. Like I was saying in reaction to the first video multiple times, that I think this is very smart, and he very, well expressed that sentiment as well. Why wouldn't you? Well, why wouldn't you? Because governments and militaries don't always do the logical thing, and they kind of tend to think they know best in situations, but the better militaries can look to a situation that they're going into and use and incorporate local knowledge and professionalism to get a job done. Yeah, and I was saying, instead of using the people in the territories to help train the military, just incorporate them into the military and let them do the job they know how to do. It's
Whether building an igloo or reading
very
land
good.
and ice,
Very good.
rangers pass on survival techniques that the Inuit hunters have perfected over millennia. For the Inuit, the rangers provide a valuable employment opportunity in a region where jobs are scarce. And the skills they learn save lives in their own communities, says Ranger Adam Kunoktunak, who in his civilian life works in the hamlet office of his native Joe Haven.
Guys usually go out on the land, and the family members call the search and rescue, and we get to go look towards where they were.
For ranger and Inuit artist Bart Hanna, the rangers provide a precious opportunity to pass on land skills to the younger generation that's sometimes more familiar with an iPod than the working end of a hunting rifle.
It would be good because we go out in a group. There's other people that with the older generation has more traditional skills, and he learns that from the older people and things like that, because the lifestyle has changed rapidly with the Inuit generation.
For others, being a ranger provides a nice opportunity to break the routine, experience an adventure, travel to an unknown corner of Canada, and why not? Have some fun.
Maybe save a life while you're at it, or do some good, protect your country. Yeah, guys, that was really cool. Thank you very much, Darcy, for recommending this to me. I think it's a wonderful thing when nations like ours that have historically dominated and subjugated native peoples, when you can incorporate them into things that the nation needs, and respect their skills and traditions, and it's just really great. Of course, there's a lot of reckoning still and reconciling to do with the way native peoples and aboriginal peoples in many countries have been treated over time. But in isolation, this is a really great story. I thought it was really cool, and I always try to draw parallels to things from our own country or from our own history. And what this reminds me of is the code talkers. Both World War I and II, Native Americans were used to pass codes along because the enemy had a very hard time deciphering codes that were in the native languages of these people. And this past April, I was out west, and I was on the Navajo reservation, and I went to a museum while I was there, and they were very proud of the Navajo code talkers and what they did in World War II, and I thought that was really cool. So, all right, my friends, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching and for going with me on this journey as I explore all the interesting nooks and crannies of your history, of your culture, and I'm just really enjoying it, and I hope you are too. All right, my friends, I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.